You're listening to the Limitless Broadcasting Network.
What's your favorite scary movie?
What's the Boogeyman?
You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish, understand? It's showtime.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to You Can't Kill the Boogeyman podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Robby.
And I'm Sammi.
And welcome to the show.
Woo!
We have a special one of my favorite movies. We are going to be talking about Lost Boys.
Yep, that's the movie of the week. And I apologize, this episode is later than we planned, but we had no internet.
Yeah, we've had some
record and post. So
we've had some production problems.
Yeah,
so
it was out for a while, so
that's why. But
yeah.
You've gotten some updated content. We didn't leave you hanging.
Yeah, we did post that interview with Metal Joe.
Yes, I was going to say Joe's
Spooky Empire
interview is out now. That's our latest episode, so go ahead and check that out.
Yep.
We met him at Spooky Empire, and we did see him at Spookala as well.
Yeah, in passing.
Yeah, I tried to talk with him, but we were so much busier there. So I'm hoping when we do their 20th show this year
in
October, so we're going to 3 shows.
Yep.
One in September, that's 90s Con. You can just look at the board. If
2 in October.
And 2 in October. So first one is in 90s Con in Tampa. That's like the 15th through the 19th. 17th, I'm sorry. So you can find us there. And then we're going to go to Spookala in Tampa.
That's the first weekend
That's
in
the
October.
first weekend of October. It's like 4th to the 6th. So.
And then Spooky Empire is at the end of the month, right before Halloween.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. You ready for me to dive in?
Yes.
To the Lost Boys?
Yes.
All right. So our very brief description. After moving to a new town, 2 brothers discover that the area is a haven for vampires.
That's a conundrum right there.
It sure is. So this movie was rated R, genre horror comedy for this one. Director is Joel Schumacher. Producer Harvey Bernhard. And then writer Jeffrey Boehm, Jan Fisher, and James Jeremias. Sorry if you're watching this. Our oldest dog, Raven, is chewing on a ball, if you can hear it.
Yes.
And refusing to give it up because she is old and cranky.
Yes. If you can hear it in the background, I apologize.
It is what it is.
I tried to get it out of it.
You can't get that from her. She's not going to
let me have it.
No. All right. So cinematography was completed by Michael Chapman. The camera they used is a Panavision Panaflex Gold with Panavision E series lenses to shoot it. This movie came out on July 31st, 1987. And its budget was an estimated $8.5 million.
That's a lot, especially for back then.
Yep. And its box office gross was $31.7 million in the US.
Okay. So it made its budget back.
It did. Its runtime is 1 hour and 37 minutes, and it was distributed by Warner Brothers.
Okay.
So we actually haven't seen, bless you, we haven't seen Warner Brothers pop up a lot.
No.
When we're doing horror movies, actually, for us, to what we've covered so far. So.
Especially them distributing.
Yeah. So this movie has a lot of great stars in it. So Jason
Patrick
plays Michael. Kiefer, can you believe?
Kiefer Sutherland.
He's in this movie.
My mother hated him as an actor.
Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, she just couldn't stand him.
Oh, well, I think he did a good job
But
as
yeah,
David in
I
this.
think he did a
young
good job
Kiefer,
too.
Yeah. Corey Haim is Sam.
Yeah.
Jamie Gertz is Star. Corey Feldman is Edgar. We have Edward Hermann in here as Max. Are you kidding me?
Is that from Twilight?
No, Edward Hermann is from the Gilmore Girls.
That's right.
It's the grandfather. I'm so upset with you right now. It blows my mind every time I see him in this because I'm so used to him from my biggest thing growing up and seeing him was Gilmore Girls.
Richard Gilmore.
Yes. And now he's in this movie and it's like, because I definitely was into Gilmore Girls and saw that well before I saw this.
Yeah.
So the first time we popped this movie in, I was like, is that Edward Hermann? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited he's in this. We have Bernard Hughes. He plays the grandpa. Jameson Newlander is Alan. Diane West is Lucy. And Alex Winter is Marco, which you have.
We actually have his
up there
picture on the wall.
I don't know. You can't see it. I'm sorry. It's cut off. But anyway, we have a signed photo of him as this character.
Yep.
Okay.
That's Marco.
That we got from Spook Gala in December.
Yep.
So that's some fun trivia for you.
Okay.
Most of the film was shot in Santa Cruz, California, starting on June 2nd, 1986, and ending on June 23rd, 1986, after 21 days of filming. So in 3 weeks, they filmed it.
That's great.
It won a Saturn Award for Best Horror Film in 1987.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that. I thought that was
pretty
cool. This was Corey Haim and Corey Feldman's first film together.
Really?
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
So yes, this is their first official film together, which marked the start of their popular 1980s trend of the two Coreys, in which they were constantly starring together in a lot of teenage films.
I think they were best friends off screen.
I believe, yeah, and then, that's the story. Mm-hmm.
Then that relationship soured.
Yeah, I mean, but there was a lot going on. Those poor kids.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we all know it's a tragic story. So
right.
Yeah, there was a lot happening behind the scenes.
That's a different podcast.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now in the opening credits, if you look, it reads introducing Alexander Winter as Marco.
Okay.
However, he was this was not his first film. His first movie was actually Death Wish 3 in 1985. So this was not his first movie. And if you guys think that name sounds familiar, Alex Winter, it's because he is Bill in Bill and Ted.
Yes.
Just in case, for those of you who maybe didn't remember that, or I don't know. We know this well, but yeah, I just want to throw that out there. So going back to his name, since we said it was Alexander Winter, not Alex, right? Oh, at the time that this film was made, Alex Winter was still registered as Alexander Winter in the Union. Joel Schumacher begged him to shorten his name so it wouldn't take up too much space in the titles. But his name couldn't be changed in time, so that's why his full name still made it into the final finished film, and that actually frustrated the director. Dog is not getting removed for being too noisy. Too distracting. She's Dawn.
I'm sorry, guys.
She's kicked out. Okay. All right. So we just covered Alex's name. All right. Timmy Capello is the oily saxophone player on the dock.
This was his lucky break because let me tell you, we go to a lot of horror cons, right? And this guy is always there signing autographs.
He's going to be at Spook Gala?
Yeah.
Okay, in October. I was going to say, I thought it was Spook Gala. Yep, he'll be there. And you're right. He made a name for himself by playing in the touring band of Tina Turner during her comeback tour in the 1980s as well.
I did not know that, but I knew this is probably his only movie, and he's
in the horror community.
Sucked it up.
Very popular because of this. Yes.
Very much so.
Yep.
If you put a picture of him, what he looks like before and after, he looks so different from what this is probably. How old is this movie? 20 years old?
1987
or 1987, so it's
a bit more.
It's a bit older than that,
but I don't want to get into how old it is because that was when I was born, so I'm slightly older than this movie.
Slightly.
Yes. All right. In Max's video store, you can see a single copy of The Goonies from 1985, which also starred Corey Feldman.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and rewatch that.
The Munsters is alluded to twice. When Michael first goes to hang out with the vampires, there's a Munsters poster behind David, and the infamous "It's the Attack of Eddie Munster" line.
Yes.
And Edward Hermann was actually in the Munsters remake as well. So there's lots of tie into the Munsters. That's fun.
Shout out to Butch Patrick.
Yeah.
Every time we see something that has to do with the Munsters, I always
shout him out. Yes.
Great guy.
Yes.
He was
nice.
Eddie Munster in the original Munster. So
he was.
Big shout out to him.
Yep.
We're going to try to get him on the podcast.
I think that'd be great fun.
But we're going to watch the Munsters first.
Yes.
And then get him on. I'm sure he'll do it.
So this movie invented the phrase "vamp out,"
right?
Which has passed into common usage in the TV series
Buffy
the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, so this is where they first used it.
Yeah,
I thought that
the vampires, like the makeup, carried over into Buffy.
Yep,
that's why they look like that.
Yep, and I believe I have something about the makeup here in a second too. Yeah. In the documentary Blood-Sucking Cinema from 2007, Corey Haim said that all of the blood had glitter in it to give it a shimmering effect and was slimier than other fake blood.
Wow.
So slimy blood. There you go. Fun fact for you. So the original design inspiration for the 80s vampire that we know and love today was none other than an old faded photograph that Greg had kept from the past. I had a newspaper clipping from years before that was faded. It was a blonde tennis player, good looking with really good bone structure. And it was faded to the point where it had these kind of shapes on the forehead and bumps on the cheeks. So that's how we came up with the design.
For the vampires.
Yes, for the vampires.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, who knew? And the vampire prosthetics were manufactured in foam latex, which was the best method at that time back in the 80s.
I think that's how they did Buffy too.
That may be, not sure. For coloration, we used Pax paint on foam latex because that's all we had. And they sculpted the prosthetics and even ran all the foam in the beginning. Basically, like they'd have to bring it to set, whenever they'd have to run it over to set when they needed it. Aside from emphasizing the facial contours, the eyes were the most important elements in the finished look. So they had those contact lenses that were like glowing and red and creepy. So they wanted to design makeup and the look around the lenses because that's the main focus of the face. So I thought they did a great job in that. In the scene where Sam and the Frog brothers take Marco while he sleeps, they are pursued by the rest of the vampire gang as they try to escape back in the daylight. David grabs Sam's leg, but Sam manages to drag David's hand into the sunlight where it catches fire. A tear then slides down David's face as he clutches his hand in agony. Apparently, the tear running down his face was actually caused by Kiefer's contact lenses. So that wasn't scripted, and they were stinging his eyes so bad that he started tearing up. But they kept it in the final film because they thought it looked really good and was fitting the context of the scene.
Right.
So there you go.
You see him like he's pulling them and he's like, tonight. And it did. That's one of the most iconic scenes in this movie.
Yep. There you go. And Sutherland actually broke his right wrist while doing a wheelie on his motorcycle. And he had to wear gloves on set so he could conceal the cast.
Really?
Yep. And his motorcycle for the movie was adapted so that he could operate it with his left hand only.
That's pretty cool. Well, when you're in Hollywood and you have millions of dollars, they have that.
That's what they do. During the climax of the film, Edgar Frog states that when a vampire bites, it's never a pretty sight. Some yell and scream, some go quietly, some explode, some implode, but all will try to take you with them.
Yep.
So he talks about that, right? So all the vampires follow these deaths exactly. Marco, when he's staked by Edgar, screams as he dies.
Yep.
Paul dissolves in a bathtub of holy water, and it caused the plumbing in the house to implode. Dwayne and Max blow up, and then David dies very quietly with minimal struggle.
You know what? You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep. So there you go. The new location of the Atlantis Fantasy World comic book store, which was featured in the film, is owned by Joe Ferrara II, who still carries the original #1 issue of Vampires Everywhere that Sam reads in the film.
Really?
The comic was created only for the film, and its opening page is signed by all of the cast members from the movie.
That's pretty cool.
And if you stop by, he will let you take a photo with it free of charge.
Really? That's pretty cool.
That was really cool that you could get a photo with it, and he doesn't charge for that.
It's so nostalgic. You're just like, wow.
And every year at the landmark Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, the film is screened as part of the park's free summer movie series.
That's how iconic this movie is.
Yes, for sure. So that's what I got for trivia for you. So I know you love this movie. You were up watching this movie?
Yeah, I grew up. So let me ask you this question. Did you watch this as a kid at all?
No.
So you watched it the first time with me?
Yes.
What did you think of it when you first watched it?
I mean, it's a fun movie. So this one, it's very 80s.
Very, yeah.
So the Goonies is 80s, right? But this one, because their kids are older, they're teenagers, it's the music in it in particular, like those scenes that pop up, the music is just so 80s, and I love it. It's just, I don't know, the vibe of a good 80s movie with that type of like electronic, that synthesizer music and all that. It just adds so much fun to the vibe, and it
hits hard and on the same beat.
Exactly. And it's, this movie, like they said, it's like a horror comedy. It's got funny bits in it. It doesn't take itself overly seriously as a movie.
When you first watched it, did it scare you at all?
I don't remember really being scared, honestly, by the movie. It's, I guess because, like I said, it's got those fun elements to it.
Right.
That kind of adds to the like a little bit of the 80s cheesiness, but it's in a good way. Like it's a lot of good stuff in the movie, not too over the top with either side.
What was your favorite part in the movie? Like, if you had to say.
I do like when they're trying to catch Edward Hermann's character, Max. And the kids are at the table and they're like trying to figure out if he's a vampire. So they hand him the what is it, the Parmesan,
the garlic,
and it's just he goes to eat it and he freaks out and they think they caught him and he's just like, no, it's like pure garlic. And his mom's like, how did that happen? So confused. And then they dump the water on him, the holy water that they try to pretend is an accident. It's pretty funny watching them trying to out him as a vampire, and then the mirror thing when they just like come up in his face with it. I do like that scene. That does make me laugh.
Their mom is so naive in that.
What are you guys doing? Going on? No.
What are you even doing?
No. And then it's so funny that they're right the whole time. And you just don't realize that he's the head vampire.
Right. I wonder why, looking back on it, those tricks didn't work on him. Is that because he's the head vampire?
I read something about it. It was because like he was invited into the home. So those little like ways to get rid of him didn't work because he was invited in or something.
Okay.
I did read that someplace. I can't remember.
That's one of the things I always wondered, like, if he is a vampire, why wasn't this working? So that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's just because he got invited into the house, and so those little tricks that would normally be able to stop him were not, because he was officially like a guest and invited in to the house.
Michael was like, when he's walking in and Michael's going out, he's like, well, you're the man of the house. I'm not going to go in until you invite me.
Yeah,
well, the
not knowing.
Reason why he did that is because he's a vampire and he needed to be invited in.
Yep,
and it's very clever. At the end of the movie, he's like, I didn't invite you this time, Max, when Michael's all vamped out.
Yes. And
that's when you actually see Michael as a vampire.
Yes. And the transformation too, like the scene where they're in like the little like nest of vampires and they're messing with his brain,
right?
With the food
you're
and everything.
Eating maggots.
Yes, and they keep like screwing with him that way. That's a good scene. But right after, when they get him to drink the blood, so then he's gonna turn into a vampire, and it sucks, if you think about it, because he doesn't know what's happening to him. But It's kind of funny watching him like slowly change over.
Right.
You know, like he's wearing the sunglasses and his brother's like, "What's your problem?" You know, and he's sleeping all day. And then when we finally get to that scene where he's like outside the window yelling at his brother, yeah, it's like scary but funny too at the same time. That's why I like it.
No, absolutely. One of my favorite scenes is when they're flying over. They're flying over the theme park, and the song "Don't Cry for Me, Little Sister" comes on. That is one of the most iconic songs in this movie because it just hits at the right time, right beat. It even has the right energy in the scenes. It makes things come alive. And so
yeah, that's a good one.
I think I heard that when they were shooting, they just shot like B-roll of the actual town and got people in it. So the first when they're coming into town and it's like when you're strange, faces come out. When you're strange, that's all B-roll of people that actually lived in the town
That's
at
pretty cool.
that time.
Wow, that's fun.
So this movie actually brought a lot of tourism to Santa Cruz. I want to keep saying Santa Carla, but it's Santa Cruz.
Yeah, Santa Cruz.
That's the real name of it, but in the movie it's Santa Carla.
Yeah. I like the opening too when they're at the carnival. The lighting and then the way that you can just tell like something sinister is going on, but you don't quite know what's going on with that group to start. But I don't know, something to do with the lighting and the carousel and the way they're walking. And then I guess, like the music and all that. I do like the opener too. I think that's a good introduction to them as characters.
When you first get into it and they're all these wanted or not wanted, but missing posters and you're just like missing. Then you start to realize, okay, maybe you're moving to not a great place. But in the movie, their mom was broke, and so she had no other choice
but to go with the grandpa.
Right.
I saw this theory online too where everyone was saying that the grandfather is also a vampire, and that's why he does all that weird taxidermy stuff and goes out at night and didn't seem bothered by all this mayhem going on.
I think that would be pretty cool.
I read that someplace and I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, that's an interesting theory that the grandfather was also a vampire.
What do you think of the Frog Brothers?
They were, oh my gosh. It's so funny to me because they're supposed to be so serious.
Right.
You know, and telling him what's going on. And you don't really know what's happening in this town and you need to read this. And
this could save your life.
Exactly. And I think I read somewhere that Corey, because you know, like he talks in like that weird deep voice that he was trying to be like, I think they were saying Stallone.
Okay.
Is who he's trying to emulate with that voice. And it just makes me laugh, like how serious, and he's trying to deepen his voice when he's talking to him. And I love the Frog Brothers. I think that they really added something to the movie.
It kind of gave it more of a comic relief. Yes. Like, oh yeah, it's a serious movie and it's supposed to be a horror movie, but there's a funny side to it. So yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I think the whole cast meshed well together.
Yeah, I feel like they did.
And they actually conveyed this is what it'd be like if you lived in a town full of vampires.
Yes.
This isn't the only movie in the series.
No, we'll be watching the other ones too.
So, but by far, most people don't know about the other two. There's two in the Lost Boys series, and Corey Haines is the only one to actually carry over.
Right.
Actually, the other Frog brother made an appearance in the last one.
Okay.
But there's an whole plot line with him, and I don't want to give that away until we get there.
We'll be watching it.
So,
sure. Yes.
What else?
I just had a thought, and
I scared it away from you.
Yeah, I think you distracted me.
When in the beginning of the show, like when they're walking on the Ferris wheel and the carousel. Yeah. The security guard comes up and he's like, I thought I told you to stay off the boardwalk. And he's like, let's go. We'll get out of here. And then they get their revenge at that night. Oh man.
Yeah, right. And I know what I was gonna say. The twist too with Edward Hermann being in charge of them, because they do have one interaction, right? Edward and the kids, but you think he just thinks they're like menacing troublemakers, you know, not anything super specific. And then you find out later when he's just like, oh, my boys or my friends or whatever.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, they are getting into trouble, and you kind of realize then what happened. I did like that twist too. I thought that was
when they walked in the video store.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, they walked in the video store,
yes,
and they're like,
he's telling them to get out, and you just think it's because everybody doesn't like them because they're troublemakers, but nope.
That means he would have had to come to that town originally, right? And turn all these kids and give them the rules. Be like, you don't know me, I don't know you. This is our system.
Right.
You got to follow this to a T. And I think the all the group knew who he was, not just David.
Right.
So they can understand that. But I feel like they would come in just to, it's like your dad saying, don't do this, and you go off and do something.
You do it anyway.
That's why I feel like they came into the video store. Or maybe in the behind the scenes, they're like, yeah, you should be doing this to kind of, so I can keep an eye on you,
Right.
So I from the start to finish, it was great.
Yeah.
Like there's not a
story
down plot in the whole movie.
No boring parts at all. And all the build up, like I said, build up with Michael when he's slowly turning and you're realizing what's happening, and his brother finally reaches out to the Frog Brothers because he's like, oh shit, like I guess you were right, my brother's turning into a vampire. And I don't know. And then that whole tie-in with the mom and the boyfriend, and they think he's a vampire and then decide he's not the vampire, and then it turns out he was the head vampire and they were right all along. It's just, trying to keep up with it and and keep track of it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a fun movie, and like you said, it has some serious moments and that has some fun moments, and then I still just will never get over the soundtrack. It's just awesome.
If you haven't seen or heard the Lost Boys soundtrack, I'm sure it's on Apple or Spotify or something. Go check it out, because there's not a bad song on it.
No.
And I'm more of a hip hop person, so I don't like that kind of music all the time, but that one I can stick it on and not skip a track.
No, it's great. It's so much fun to listen to. So yeah, it's just a classic movie, and it's sad that they took so long to make a second movie for it.
I think there's gonna be a reboot to it. I've heard that they're actually casting for it. But right now we'll keep going, but I want to talk about the strike here in a second.
Sure.
But it's just great when they're another iconic scene in the movie is when Michael is hanging out with them, and he's trying to bring Star to go get something to eat, right? And he's like, they're driving and they're like, do you know where this on their motorcycles,
right?
And so he's trying to race David, and he's doesn't know that he's going to go over a cliff, and then at the last minute he knows it, and he pulls his bike off at the side, and he's like, what the hell are you trying to do, man? Just you. But I think my thinking of that scene, I think David was like, this guy has some balls. That's why they wanted to turn him.
That's why they
that's why he was
him.
I think that's why they didn't feed off of him, because he wanted to compete with them.
And then I thought that the Max had made a comment too when he was finally revealed at the end of the movie, because he wanted the mom as his like bride, vampire, whatever, because he makes some comment about that's why he sent his lackeys to change Michael, and he mentions, I think they're gonna change both the brothers at some point, he says. Right. So I don't know what order it really happened in, as far as making those decisions, but it really sounds like Max said to go for Michael, and convert him, but they probably were testing him out, because like you said, there's no way they 100% listen to Max, so they probably were trying to challenge him to see if they were going to follow through with what they were supposed to do, or just kill him and be like,
he's
oops,
like, in the movie he's like, I can't beat your bike, you don't have to beat my bike, Michael. You just have to keep up. There are so many iconic lines, just like that one. How far are you willing to go, Michael? That's another one.
Yeah, Kiefer does a great job.
Yeah,
as a creepy vampire.
Another thing is after they're done messing with them, they eat the Chinese food. They go on the bridge.
The bridge. I was just gonna say that. Oh, that scene.
And they're like, what's going on? Michael wants to know what's going on. And then Alex Winter's character, he's like, goodbye, Michael. And he drops and is holding down. And then Michael's just like, what the fuck is going on here? And then everybody does.
Yeah.
And then when Michael goes down, he doesn't jump. He kind of slides himself off. Yeah, that's what I would do too.
Just like gently.
And then David's like, let go. You're one of us. You're one of us. And I would be scared too. I'd be like, oh my goodness, here it is. But he just ended up going. Do you ever wonder how that scene worked? Like he dropped and he ended up being in his bed.
It's just, I couldn't tell if that was meant to be another one of those, like, they're in his mind messing with him and it wasn't really the way it was.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Like that was another one of those, like the way they mind meld everything, or just like later when it seems like all those cars are coming and they look out and there's not really anything.
They're like when
or the motorcycle,
like he's gonna try to go get into the bath and he's like, Michael, don't open the door, and then he opens the door and it's quiet.
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
I think it's funny when he finds out his brother's a vampire. He's like, look at you, you're a goddamn bloodsucker. Like in the mirror.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes.
So what did you think of Nanook, the dog, the husky?
Oh, he's so cute.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that when Michael started kind of freaking out a little bit and he was starting to go after his brother, the dog was like, no bitch, no. I see you for what you really are. You're not going to do that. And was standing up to Michael to, and the little mislead too, where you think like he did something to the dog and the dog actually just attacked him.
Right. He's like, what the hell did you do to my dog? What the hell? And he's like, I didn't attack him. This is my blood.
Yeah.
But that's when Michael was vamping out, if you'd say, and he was going after his brother.
Yeah, so that's what the dog should have done.
And his dog was like, not today, Satan. And he got him.
And then there's Max's dog, right?
Yes,
where they're talking about how
the Hounds of Hell.
Yes, the Hounds of Hell protect the head vampire, and he has.
Yeah. And keep in mind, Max's dog is a white German Shepherd. You know that? Did you notice that?
I did, yes.
So we have 2 German Shepherds. That's why.
Yes.
That's why we're bringing that up.
2 German Shepherds. So yeah, but that dog was a little scary. But it doesn't help that the mom was like screaming and frantically running away, just like becoming the prey for the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she was running.
When she's like, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's an iconic scene.
And how Max is just like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you come out, Max?
Exactly. Why didn't you come out? Exactly.
Don't you wonder?
That's a question I would have asked him. Where the fuck were you?
Exactly.
I'm here getting chased by your dog, and you're just, where were you at? Well, he for Max's benefit or lie, he could have been like, oh, I wasn't even home.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Oh, I was at the video store or something like that. But
we know
the audience really knows what they were doing.
Asleep during the day. Yeah. So
I think it's funny when the day they're getting all their supplies and everything, they run into the church to fill up their water guns with holy water, and so somebody's either getting married or it's a baptism.
I thought it was a baptism.
It was a baptism,
but they had the holy water like basin in the back, and
they're just filling up their guns, their water guns, and people are just like,
and they're all just staring at him like,
what the fuck are you guys doing in here?
What's happening? Oh, that is really funny. I did like that scene too.
So that's pretty funny. And then Edgar Frog, he's like to the brother, he's like, kill your brother, you'll feel better. And I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, that did make me laugh when they were trying to discuss like what are they gonna do about Michael, and the whole answer was, yeah, you gotta stake him. And he's like, No, I
No,
don't
I
want to
can't
kill.
do that.
I do not want to kill my brother. But they were straight up like, listen, if he does something, I'm gonna fucking
We're gonna get you.
I'm letting you know I'm going to murder your brother. So if he does something to me, he vamps out, as they're saying. Like, he's done, and I have no qualms with killing your brother. Just as a heads up on this entire ordeal.
I think it's funny because after the cave, after they're done like getting pulled, they're like, they put Star and Hattie in the car, and then Michael's there, and then Corey jumps in the driver's seat, and then the Frog Brothers are like, "Oh, we don't ride with vampires," and he's like, "Fine, stay here." Exactly. And they're like, "Wait a minute, we do now."
Hold on.
We do now.
Now we'll go.
Now we'll go.
I love how they took the grandfather's car too, and they're just basically like, "Hey, we're borrowing your car," and the grandpa's just like watching them.
Watch them going down. Yeah. As they're wanting to, "Hey, Grandpa, can we borrow your car?" As you're driving down. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, that made me laugh.
In the first scene, they're like, he wants to take Corey to town, and he's like, "Okay, let's go to town." Yes. And then they get in, start the car, and he's like, "Up, that's it." And he's like, "That's as far as I'd like to bring this to town."
Exactly. Well,
so when I can only just imagine being like, "Oh, can I borrow your car?" And as it's going down, being like, "These goddamn kids,
right?
What are they thinking?"
Like, what the hell, guys? Oh, that was too funny. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
The grandpa's always giving the brother all the woodwork he does for the owls and everything like that.
The
taxidermy stuff. What did you think about that?
So creepy. That's why I kind of like the theory when they're like, "Oh, he's a vampire," and that's why he's like always got these like dead animals and the taxidermy thing.
I think that's funny
because I was like, it's like when he had that whole room.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And then he would he gave him an owl.
It just like popped up in his room because he woke up and it was just like there.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I think that's where I would draw the line too.
It's a bit creepy.
So out of all the vampire deaths at the end, which one?
I was just thinking that.
Do you think was the best one?
Okay, so like, it's hard for me to pick because I really liked the stereo one, and I actually read that took them like a week to film the exploding stereo scene.
I can understand that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun just because there's a lot of sparks and stuff. But I probably would pick, because it's so gross, the bathtub blow up because of the exploding.
Me too.
So disgusting, and that's like a classic horror. Like,
yeah, you gotta have blood and guts and carnage.
It was everywhere.
Yeah,
that's probably the one I would end up picking.
I think it's cool that Michael was able to take Max. He's supposed to be this like head vampire and everything like that, and Michael ends up
still won,
defeating him. But to the credit, his grandfather did help him out. But I always wonder, I'm just like, how did his grandfather know that they're actually in the house? Because if you see in the earlier scene, she was gonna go see the widow Johnson.
He was leaving,
and he's like, "Anything we can do for aftershave?" And he used Windex.
Yep.
And so,
but Matt, that adds to the theory that he's also a vampire. So he just like knew they were there.
I could see that.
He's a defected vampire.
I could see that.
Yeah. I like that. I just like that theory. That's my new like canon.
Did you figure that out when you're doing the research for this?
What, I read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. And I was like, I really like that theory. I'm going to stick with that in my brain from now on.
So while they're at the house and everything like that, and they're all attacking, the Eddie Munster kid starts like wolfing out or vamping out. What did you think about that?
I mean, that was pretty crazy. That kid was like freaking out.
Like when they would turn somebody so young.
I mean, but it's not surprising. What do they care?
I agree.
We've seen that enough in classic vampire stuff. They don't care.
Right.
They just want more.
They think we're giving you immortality.
Yeah, and that's not what everybody wants.
Because that's what David said to Michael. He was like, "I tried to give you immortality. I tried to make you immortal." And then David's like, "You tried to make me a killer." And then they're fighting. I like the fact that they it works for this movie that they can fly.
I was just gonna say the way they're flying around the room in their battle, that was really cool.
I like that, but I like if you were to take that same scenario and go to like to Buffy,
it wouldn't work.
I don't like the fact that they would be able to fly, but for Lost Boys.
Yeah.
I think that really complemented the scene and it complemented the movie. So I dug that scene.
Yeah, I really liked their battle between David and Michael. I thought that was really cool, the way they're flying around. And then again, the music, you're just like, this is an epic thing that's happening right now. It just adds to it. It was so well done, and again, so much fun to watch and all of that. But I did see, because David gets shoved like on those, it's like antlers.
Yeah,
right?
The antlers. Yeah.
So technically then that wouldn't kill him because it's not a stake.
Well, it did go through his heart though.
Okay. But did we see him die? No.
Well, we did, because the mom's boyfriend came over and David was laying there and he took his face and rolled it over and was like, looked at it.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It just seemed a little ambiguous. All of the other ones like blew up.
Right.
And his was like a bit ambiguous for whether he truly died.
So you think David's just out there and about?
I mean, who knows?
Starting his own vampire colony?
Yeah. I mean, who really knows? And it was just so interesting too when they thought that, because they thought David was the head vampire.
Right.
When they were like, oh, it's not Max. And how they killed him. And they're like, well, fuck.
I don't feel any different.
It's the same, only to realize that they had not actually gotten the head vampire yet. That was a great reveal, because you think the movie's over and it's not over.
Right.
Not quite.
If you have not seen this movie, you
So
definitely, it's fun from start to finish. I even think young kids could deal with this movie.
I mean, yeah, it's got a little bit of grossness to it, but like the food scene, the maggots, that's just more like, ew,
Right.
I mean, the worst scene I really think is like the blown up bathroom nasty vampire thing. That's probably the worst scene, and that's not like terrible.
I think one of the best scenes in the movie is when Michael is trying to meet David and he's like, if you ever want to see Star again, follow me. And then they go to this place and these guys are like hanging out drinking beer and they're all in the tree. And then they all fly and kill these guys. And at the end of it, you see David or Michael, and he's a vampire.
Yeah.
And he's almost to the point where he's going to make his first kill.
Yes.
But he's like, now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. But you will never grow old, but you must feed. And so I thought that was kind of iconic to kind of break him into what he was. Like he fully understands what's going on, the ramifications.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, just so many good.
Like the wine he drank. Like he's like,
no, it wasn't.
How much do you think he actually drank of that?
Enough to make him to a vampire.
I mean, when I watch that, I'm just like, he's not like chugging it, but
I don't know how much you need to turn into a vampire.
You just need like a sip or something.
It must not be very much. Maybe.
Apparently,
I don't know.
He had a good amount, but I was just like, he's not like chugging it. But I always wondered that, like, how much do you really need?
I don't know. It's a good question.
So would you rewatch this movie?
Oh yeah, I don't mind watching this one. I think, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
And honestly, now that we were kind of breaking it down, I'm surprised it was rated R.
I think that's because of the killings and the vampires.
Yeah, it just
and everything.
I feel like we've seen way worse, but this was also 80s when they were just kind of. I talked about in the Pixie Dust Twins with Indiana Jones, but there were less categories for ratings also back in the 80s, so that's probably part of it too. Was they were just now kind of expanding the amount, the in between an R and a G, because there was like not that much to choose from, so that may have been part of it too. But yeah, no, I would surely watch this movie over and over. I think it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It gets you into the Halloween season. Everybody says, oh, Michael Myers is cool, but we like to go branch out a little bit.
Because Michael Myers, the movies can have funny parts and whatnot, but it's you're not going to watch Michael Myers series for the humor. You get a little bit more of that in Scream, because Scream does a lot of satire things with their stories, but Michael's like, mostly just gonna watch him kill some fucking people and move on with it. But
Right.
this is like a fun. It's got a lot of
Humor,
gross stuff happening in it,
horror for everybody.
Yeah, but that's why they call it a horror comedy, and I think it's a great mash.
Yes.
Of the two. I think they did a great job.
Yeah,
with the story and the filming, and yeah, this is just a great fun movie to watch.
I'm curious when we get in the other two. I'm wondering why the other cast didn't want to come back. Like, well, I can understand why the other Corey didn't.
And yeah, he passed.
And then,
yeah.
but like Jason Patrick, why he didn't want to come back, or the mother didn't want to come back, and kind of give them a more iconic role in the next one. So I'm hoping when you do your research,
there'll be something about that.
Something about that.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see if I can see anything about that before we talk about him.
Corey Haynes made, not Haynes, yeah, Corey Haynes made a killing off of these. You know, because he was one of the Frog Brothers.
No, Corey Feldman.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Feldman was the
right,
the
but
Frog Brother.
He kind of kept the franchise going, so I'm just
because he comes back and rocks it out. Yeah.
So I'm curious why the other cast didn't want to come back.
Interested.
So yeah.
So
let us know what you guys think of the movie.
Yeah. Do you like this one?
Do you like this one? Did you like our breakdown of it? What is your favorite scene?
Or favorite line?
Character? There's so many iconic lines and characters. You got to just keep up, Michael.
Do you have a favorite character?
In this, yeah, I like David.
I knew you were gonna say David.
I like David.
I knew it.
And I like Marco as well.
Because it's Alex.
No, I think he plays the character well.
No, he does a great job.
Like,
I don't think of Bill or anything when I see.
He's very believable as a vampire. And the way he dressed and everything like that, it's just so fitting.
Yeah,
I think they did a really good job.
They cast this movie super, super well, for sure.
Yeah.
I really like Michael and his struggling life. I just like the evolution and how he deals with it. And then I did like the Frog Brothers too, just because they were so silly and they're serious.
They're so serious about it, and just like
them too.
But yeah. But well, let us know your favorite characters.
Yes.
Let us know what you think of the episode. We're excited to just watch the other two. We'll get that out to you sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'll try and get our shit together. I mean, my work schedule is changing, so we're gonna
have more time.
We're gonna hopefully, be able to squeeze this in a little bit more and figure it out, because things are updating. So now, what do you want to talk about? You said something about the strike.
So what do you think about the writers' strike right now?
The writers / actors. Do the directors make a deal, or what's their deal?
They have not yet.
Everybody in Hollywood is on strike. Oh my God. Okay. So this is one of those, there is 3 sides, right? I always say that there's 3 sides to everybody's story and opinions and all of that, right?
Right.
And, on the one hand, you have the studios who are like, this shit costs a lot of money, which is very true. We've seen numbers for some of these super high cost shows, and I feel like most shows these days, it seems like they just have a huge budget to do things, the networks are throwing money at them, which also makes me feel like, well, are there anything you're trying to produce that's a little bit less, expensive?
I think the climate, people expect that certain level of production.
But here's my thing, to a certain extent, yes, but there's a lot of people, if you look at, I love Disney, right? Clearly have a whole podcast, Disney annual pass, go to see all the Disney movies. I get you, right? I love it. But things like Marvel and Star Wars, those are very, very expensive franchises.
Yes.
Do we need that much stuff? No, because people are kind of burnt out.
So you think there's a fatigue when it comes to Marvel?
Sometimes, this is just one example. You're just doing a little too much, or maybe you couldn't be investing your money and your time in new things, new characters, new storylines. They also love to do reboots. It seems we've been doing constant reboots out there.
Well, let me tell you why. Because Hollywood doesn't like to fund ideas that they know they can't get a return on.
Right. And I understand that. Their whole point
And
is
so,
to make money to continue making content.
If they do a reboot, they already have a built-in audience. They already have the blueprint, the formula, and everything. They already know how much they're going to get back. Look, think of the movie Tomorrow World with George Clooney.
Tomorrowland. We liked that movie.
I thought it was great.
But thankfully, Disney is still creating movies based off of current IPs they have. Now, see, this is something that I like that Disney is doing. They already have this IP, right? The Pirates was the biggest one. It's really the big Kickstarter for all of this. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
They have a ride.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make a movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, that kind of is a jumping point from the ride. That's how that came about.
Right.
And then they made a huge franchise, and granted, some of the movies were completely garbage by the end. But the very first movie is classic. Love it. Could watch it a million times over. Have watched a million times over. And they've continued that. Tomorrowland was one of those. It was based on current IP. We really enjoyed that movie with George Clooney, and very sad that it didn't make a budget.
But it was an original concept.
Yes.
And it didn't do well in the box office.
No. And
so that's why it did not get
a second one. But they didn't give up, because they did Jungle Cruise.
True.
Haunted Mansion is just about to come out.
True.
So Disney is still doing that, but
this is their own IP.
Yes.
And so I understand, like, they have a built-in audience, they have a built-in pipeline, they know what they're doing. Studios don't like to lose money.
Yes.
And this is all a business. I know it's the media, but it's a media business.
Yes.
So getting back to the strike, I can see both sides of it. People don't want to be replaced by AI. My problem is is AI is so new. We do not know where it's going yet. We don't know how big it's going to be. So when they're trying to negotiate these topics, these viewpoints, I feel like it's going to be hard, because nobody knows where it's going.
That's true.
And I see this coming, that this is not going to be a short strike. I feel like this could carry over until the first of the year, or maybe in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
But what it's really going to hurt them is when the fall shows come up, because right now they're selling advertising to people. And when the fall list of shows come around, they're not going to have any actors to say, okay, let's start production. That's when I think it's going to start hurting the studios.
Yeah.
But right now, it's not. They're just going to let them do whatever they do. And I see it on Instagram. I see them protesting and whatnot and what have you. And I know some of the bigger stars are repping for working actors, not the actors that get the $1 million paychecks. They
don't need the money. Yeah.
These are actors that work from audition to audition.
Right.
And I understand why they're striking, but I think both sides are still on the fence. Like, they don't know how big this topic is going to be. So I don't think they can come to an end anytime soon. And I believe from this, there's going to be a content shortage.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you for tuning into this, because we're an independent studio. We're launching a streaming service. We're producing stuff like this. So when you guys tune into content like this, you're not helping out a $1 billion business. You're helping out an independent studio. I mean, we sell shirts, we go to horror cons, and everything we do helps our bottom line.
Yeah.
So definitely we appreciate that. But the bigger studios, they're not going to settle with them until it really starts hurting them.
And I know, to be fair, when you look at some of it, like, the studio itself needs lots of money,
right,
as we said, to produce content. And then some of the problem is when you look at who runs the companies and these CEOs and how much they're making. And I know there's an argument, which you have played the devil's advocate, as you like to say, that they're helping, run the company, right?
They show value to the company.
There you go, value to the company, the right content, all of that. And I get that. But I still think there's a certain point where, like, how much money is too much for these people? You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit ridiculous, especially when there's such a big disparity all across America.
Right.
And I think sometimes Hollywood and the big executives and stuff are super out of touch with the normal working average American who's helping pay their salaries through watching the content, going to the movies and whatnot. And I think that's becoming a big contention point as well. Like we just talked about Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer. Okay. This is not like a money thing, but just like a Hollywood example, right? We were talking about how his whole thing is the movie was filmed for IMAX 70, right?
Yeah, right.
There's like barely any theaters in the country. So like you film this movie for a specific format that most of America cannot go see that movie in the way it was intended.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, okay, I guess that's like a cool thing to advertise, but what does that mean to most people? Like, I don't care. I'm never going to go see it in that theater because there's no theater near me.
Right.
To go experience it the way you filmed it. Like, it's little things like that in general, you know, now Hollywood's a little like out of touch. And I would say
scatterbrained.
Yeah, that goes with the executives, because I know what you're just saying. Like, they want to return, they want to create content that they're gonna get their money back on, and they don't want to take a risk and all that. But there's so many movies out there that go to these film festivals like Sundance. It's always like a big thing to be picked at Sundance, right?
Right.
And those are not big filmmakers; they're indie filmmakers.
Right.
We like to go like Zach Braff is one I think of. Clearly, I'm sure he's well overpaid for everything he does because that is what it is. But he's like more of an indie director, filmmaker, and we always like his movies, and they don't feel over budgeted to me or overproduced. Yeah. The houses that he uses and the sets, they feel much more like real America, realistic. And those are things I like to see sometimes in a movie versus these like rich fuckers. Like we just watched The White Lotus.
Yeah.
Binge that.
Okay, so The White Lotus, you could tell that they had several $1 million for their budget.
And the whole point was these were rich people.
Right.
That were just completely out of touch with reality.
Right. But it can show from the production design to the show to the wardrobes, everything.
So the whole point is they're making fun of this or whatever they were trying to get the message across about there was rich people and the way they treat others and all that. Okay. But at the same time, like, how much money did you just spend on this entire, like, doesn't it seem like it gets a little lost in translation at that point?
Yeah.
Like, did you have to, I don't know. It's shit like that, you know, where it just seems like, okay, if you're all talking about money and that's what this is coming down to, the CEOs, the people that are running the company, let's be honest, they are paid too much money. Some of the actors are paid too much money. But that goes for sports stars and stuff, you know, people who should be getting more money are people like teachers. And we all know this.
That's when we don't value that as a society.
No, exactly. So they're all overpaid. Not necessarily, like you said, the working actor. There's a difference. But these ones, you know, like George Clooney, whatever, like, come on now. Like he has so much money, he doesn't know what to do with it.
Right.
We should be looking at the disparity there. And then how much are you spending on the show that you didn't really have to? I mean, because there are, like we said, the indie projects where they're being more creative in how they have such little money. How do they spend it? And they still manage to produce a film that's worthwhile and valuable without being over the top in the wardrobe and you know what I mean? Like maybe you should be taking a look at like what you're doing with your money versus just straight up like, well, we need the money and we're not gonna pay you guys or give you a higher cut or anything. Like I feel like there's just a big conversation.
Well, I personally don't think it's gonna come to a head anytime soon.
Well, you're probably right, like you said.
So I will be going out to LA to cover the writers and acting strike. I don't know when yet, but we're working on those details. This package will be available. When I say package, I mean episode. Yeah,
nobody knows what you're talking
about. Will be available on our streaming site. Our streaming site is getting built right now. Currently, I'm licensing all sorts of content for it. So when it launches, you guys will be the first to know. Our videos like this will be on it. The Boogeyman, the Pixie Dust Twins, the Painful Truth of Living with Chronic Pain, all of our self-produced content.
And to add to that, don't know the release date, but Robby has started a new podcast with his friend Marvin that they are working on.
It's called The Partner Complex. So
Yes.
we take buddy cop movies and break them down.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on that. We've recorded a couple of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited to launch that. But that's produced by Limitless Broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's coming shortly
and they're going
to our platform.
Long episodes based on how long it takes them to fucking record.
Right. So
just so you know,
if you like that kind of banter, you'll love that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm also in the works of producing another podcast as well. It's a review show. So we just want to produce and produce and produce.
Robby just has so many ideas.
Right.
For things.
You're right.
You do. Mm-hmm.
But again, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts about the strike. Do you understand what's going on with it? Are you guys lost in translation?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys get it? What are your thoughts about AI? Do you use it? Let us know.
Which, if you think about it, you probably use it more than you realize.
Yeah.
Really and truly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not just those dumb photo apps or TikTok trends.
Right. I think
there's other AI.
There's other AI like driving directions,
yeah, Google Maps,
or
Apple Maps.
Apple Maps, all AI. So AI has been in the society for a while.
An Android phone, and I'm going to tell you, like, Google probably runs my life right now with things I have set up on it.
Right. Notifications.
Like
editing.
It literally probably runs my life, which not saying that's a good thing, but it is a thing. It's a reality.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So again, thank you guys for tuning in and let us know.
Yep. And we will see you next time for Lost Boys
2.
Yeah.
I can't remember it'll be Lost Boys 2.
I don't remember what the actual.
I think it's The Thirst.
That could be. I can't remember.
Or that could be the third one. But
well, it's some Lost Boys.
Yeah, it'll be the second one.
It's the second one, yeah.
So thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
You Can't Kill the Boogeyman podcast is produced and hosted by Robby and Sammi Brooksby as part of the Limitless Broadcasting Podcast Network. Post-production and intro by Sammi Brooksby. Follow the show on Instagram at BoogeymanPod. You can also follow the Limitless Broadcasting Company at Limitless Broadcasting and your horror hosts at Robert 1950 Studios and at The Samalam. We also have a TikTok at 1950 Studios. Email your creepy comments and spooky suggestions to us at boogeymanpod@gmail.com. Don't forget, everyone is entitled to one good scare. Have a horrific week.